Hello everyone, welcome back to SwitchUp and to the video where we round up the top scores for the month of April.
Yeah, it would have been, wouldn't it? So yeah, we've got 8 games to go through, 8 games we reviewed last month. I will say, I'm going to mention it now. Now, the title of this video is and always has been highest rated for month, you know. This is not a great month. The scores are pretty low, I'm going to say. These are the highest rated games, for better or worse. So just take it, you know, as it is. We're not going to change the title for one video, but the top one got a good score.
Yeah, and there are some good games in here that just on Switch aren't great, so it kind of affected their scores.
Yeah, these were games we were looking forward to.
Really looking forward to.
And the score, you know, they let us down in some way, and we'll go through why now.
What are they? Well, let's find out.
So let's start with joint 8th then, and the first of those is Wrath, Aeon of Ruin.
Wrath, Aeon of Ruin. Yeah, this is an interesting one because basically a solo developer decided they love Quake so much they were going to use the Quake engine to make essentially a new Quake game.
Okay.
You know, like a spiritual successor.
Yep.
So they did just that. Now, I'm actually told that the Switch version runs on Unity, which might explain why it's so crap. I don't know why anyone uses Unity on Switch, man. It just doesn't work very well. But the game itself is the issue. It's not the hardware, it's not the performance, it's none of those. It's the game itself. In a first-person shooter, there's a couple of things you need. You need good guns, right? You want good shooting.
Yep, makes sense.
The shooting's not great.
Okay, not a good start then.
And you need good controls.
Yep.
Controls aren't great.
So, Switch version,
Yeah.
I'm thinking straight away you're wanting decent gyro.
You want decent gyro, and the gyro here has the left stick you twist to move, which just makes no sense at all.
No, it doesn't.
No, and also you have to click the right stick in to activate gyro, and then that switches off every time you load the game.
Oh, honestly, if we could get rid of one thing in gaming, past DLC or paid transactions, clicking a bloody stick in to do anything needs to go.
I tell you what,
it does my head in.
That's why I like the Nixie Joycons that we show on this channel all the time.
Yeah.
Link in the description.
There will be, yeah.
There will be, right there. They have a button that you can reprogram on the back.
Oh, nice.
And I always reprogram that to my L3 and my R3.
Yeah.
Because I hate clicking the stick, man.
It's ridiculous.
But anyway, this game, it's just not great. The levels are an hour long.
Oh, no.
First-person shooter, hour-long levels, and they have a save system where you have to collect save tokens before you can save.
Jeez.
I know.
I mean, you'd think, obviously, they're emulating or paying homage to what's come before. Obviously, you want to see your own ideas, but they seem to have really screwed the pooch, don't they?
They really have. Now, I have to say, on PC, mouse and keyboard, silky smooth.
Yeah.
It plays completely differently.
Right.
It plays like Quake played, but here the Switch just isn't a good place for it. With all of that said, it has some good elements to it. It's just those things are really quite annoying. It got a SwitchUp score of 63%.
There we go then. So obviously joint 8 implies there's another game with such a score. And that was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Wrath of the Mutant. So funny enough, 2 games with Wrath in the title.
I'm feeling Wrath.
Yeah, they feel my wrath in a minute. But I was looking forward to this game.
Yeah, it did look quite cool.
Massive Turtles fan. I did really enjoy the 2012 series that this is based on. Now I will say in its defence, first and foremost, because a lot of the comments were, this game looks terrible in terms of the visuals. That's what the series looked like. It used a very crude, computer-generated style. So the game actually got that right, to be fair. It's just not a very good beat-em-up.
No, it's like an arcade beat-em-up that isn't like arcade beat-em-ups.
I would never have thought it was an arcade game at all. Obviously, it was, I'm assuming, you know, a smaller run. 2017, the game came out. Arcades aren't really a thing anymore. You know, it's not like the golden age of arcade games, but it has no attract mode, it has no flashy intro to get started. It's only got 6 levels, and apparently 3 of those are new for this version of the game, so the arcade game must have taken about 10 minutes to finish. There's no real weight of impact when you're fighting. Because of the fact it's a 3D beat 'em up in terms of its character sprites, it means that the way that you access planes and the way that you the levels that you hit opponents on doesn't work very well. It just feels very messy. Yeah,
so we played a bit of this in co-op, and it's not all bad. You know, when if you know nothing of arcade beat 'em ups, and you pick this up as a child, you know, with your mates, you probably have a good time, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
It's just it misses a lot of things that we kind of come as standard for this genre.
It does, and its problem is, well, it's got 3 problems really. That A, the price is way too high. With that in mind. B, the Switch is actually a very good place for beat-em-ups.
Yeah,
some classic really beat-em-ups on here. And C, it's actually got some very good Turtles beat-em-ups on here. So it can't even claim that, you know. Disappointing, but as you say, there is fun to be had. You just have to look harder than I would have wanted to find it. And as you would expect, it also got 63%.
In joint 5th place then, we've got Eiyuden Chronicles 100 Heroes. Now, despite the score, I was really looking forward to this game, and it's a brilliant game. That says it all, doesn't it, really? That says it all for what I think is the issue for a lot of Switch releases, is that they're releasing in a bad state. Now, what is this? Well, it's a JRPG from the same guy that bought us, Seikendetsu. Have I said that right?
Seikuden.
I've just merged two games into
have.
a new one. I want to play Seikendetsu.
I think you're thinking of Seiken-Densetsu.
That's what I'm thinking of. So yeah, it's like a spiritual successor to the one that Glen said, and it was actually created by one of the people that created that, who sadly has now passed away.
Right.
But it's amazing. So it's using a lot of things that we've seen. So it has that almost like 2.5D style. I don't know what to call it, 2D HD, whatever you would say. It doesn't do anything particularly new in its field. You've got your hub map. It does do random battles.
Yeah.
I struggle with random battles.
Yeah, I do. These days, they feel a bit old hat, don't they?
Yeah, I really do struggle with them. But what I will say in its defence is the randomness is quite not random. So it happens every 20 seconds of movement.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, if you're going to do it, I suppose that's not too bad.
Yeah, I think it's tied to the frame rate. Someone in the comments got really super nerdy about it. But basically, I timed it in my head, and it made it so it didn't annoy me. So I knew I had 20 seconds of movement, and then I was going to get a battle.
Okay.
And it took because I really can't stand completely random battles anymore.
No.
You know, it just kind of grates me a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's good. The niche, is that the right word? What's the one thing it has going for it that's like unique? It's niche.
Well, it's more like it's saving grace, I suppose.
It's saving grace is it has these obviously 100 plus different heroes that you can recruit for the war that's going on, and that's interesting. It kind of reminds me of a bit of a less polished version of Unicorn Overlord in some respects. That game's amazing, but that obviously had the strategy side. So yeah, sorry, that one scored a SwitchUp score of 65%.
Yeah, so the next one then, again, obviously joint 5th, slightly different. So this is ArcRunner. Now, the 3 that we've mentioned so far were games we were really looking forward to.
Yeah.
That we, started to play, and even if there were redeeming features like you just mentioned, you couldn't help but feel that weight of disappointment for, various reasons. This one was a complete unknown that obviously we played for review. And it's not a bad game. It's just flawed. It just has some flaws to it that drag it down, So this is a roguelite, almost like third-person shooter, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this one's a bit like Risk of Rain, isn't it?
Risk of Rain 2.
Risk of Rain 2 within the cyberpunk setting.
Yes.
But it had the world's most annoying audio loop, didn't it?
It did, and I mean, that's a major part of this score, to be perfectly honest. So in terms of the game itself, it is repetitive, and obviously that would have been factored in, but it's not bad. I mean, if you're playing with a friend in online co-op, then we had a decent amount of fun with it. You go through each stage, picking up new weapons. You get like locked in to arenas, if you like, or areas, and have to obviously defeat all the enemies. There are boss battles. On that side of it, I do think they needed to mix up the locations a bit quicker than they do.
Yeah.
There's only 3 locations and like 6 levels per location. There should have been a few more just to keep things interesting, keep it fresh. But the game has the audio for the game, it's about 10 seconds long. And it loops and it loops and it loops and it loops, and you can't help but notice it, and it starts to drive you crazy. And if you add 10 more points onto that score, just that score alone, already this is looking okay, isn't it? It's sometimes just one part of a game can really drag the score down.
Yeah, it can. And I think in the genre of roguelite, there needs to be a little innovation. You can't just take a formula and go, okay, it's going to work for us, let's go. The player has to go, oh, that's unexpected, at least at some points, for it to really, for me, get its hooks in. Yeah. And it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. Again, little tweaks like the amount of guns you can pick up at once is very stingy. Just give you a few more. Change the levels up a little bit. Fix that bloody musical loop. All of a sudden, this game's looking a lot better.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not a bad game though, and on a sale, if you like these sort of games, you'll do well. But unfortunately, with what it is, it again got 65%.
In 4th place, we've got GYLT. Now, this is much more interesting. It's a good game, this. This one sees you playing as a young girl. A lot of it's kind of a metaphor for a bigger issue that's going on. I don't want to spoil it. But it has that, what do you call it, like hide and seek gameplay mechanic.
Yes. So again, it was a third-person game, but with that like stealth gameplay mechanic where you have to hide from monsters. You've got like a torch, obviously, that you can use at times to stun or to obviously just light the way. Felt a bit like, I think we might have even said this in a review, almost like a third-person Little Nightmares.
Yeah.
Didn't it? You know, with that puzzle platforming but puzzle gameplay leading into some sort of horror element. Yeah, actually quite a nice, pleasant surprise, this one.
Yeah, good game. Not the longest, but I don't think these need to be, do they? They're telling a story, they're kind of giving you an experience, and they don't want to drag it out for too long.
Yeah.
It does have some nice light and dark mechanics, things like being able to shine your torch on the ground and then the monster will see that and move towards it. You can lure them away and then run in the other direction. And yeah, it switches up its enemies as well. It doesn't just keep one type. You get this horrible like crow creatures that teleport around the map. They're actually genuinely quite scary. But the way it's told the story I thought was really quite good, and it looks good on Switch as well. Although I will say later in the game, performance does drop quite a bit. So again, that affects the score.
Yeah, and seems to be a theme for this month, doesn't it? Games that could have been so much better just with a bit of tweaking. But this one, certainly seen the scores move up now. I took to fourth place to do it.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, but this one got 75%. So moving into the top 3 then, and in third place we have another Crab's Treasure.
Yeah, I'll say right off the bat, exactly as you've just said, had this performed perfectly, this would be up there with what's coming top of this list.
Sure, yeah.
This is an amazingly good, I wouldn't even call it a Souls-like, because I think calling it a Souls-like is going to put a lot of people off.
Right, yeah.
Whereas it has so many accessibility options, it's more like an action adventure, just like a standard action adventure with those Soulsy elements in there.
Yeah.
If you have played any of those types of games, though, you will really be able to just pick up and play this. But what I like is things like the controls, like in a Souls, like you use the bumper buttons for attacks and blocks and things like that. And then you tend to use like A as or B as dodge. Here you can turn all that off and you can have it as just an action adventure game controls, like using these buttons to attack. And also the accessibility means you can almost turn the difficulty down to, I will say it's still quite difficult, but it's easy enough for my 10-year-old to enjoy it, which I think is a good kind of endorsement for their accessibility options. And on that note, more games should have accessibility options.
Yeah, I think so. It's, games came from a time where the difficulty was either to get you to spend more money in an arcade or to hide the fact the game was very, very short because they couldn't make it any longer, space limitations or whatever. That's not an issue anymore. We don't need to hide things behind difficulty. We can let people play at their own pace or their own skill level.
And it's about enjoyment as well. Like obviously that ties into enjoyment. But we played the Grounded the other day, and you were like, "Well, I would rather this be the mechanic."
Yes.
And they'd actually put in there that you could do that.
Yeah,
we didn't realise at the time. And the same for this. A lot of the things, let people tweak it a little bit more. I think would really help. But another Crab's Treasure, lovely world. Like it really is a nice environment. We were saying about the roguelite, giving it a fresh twist. This is exactly that,
right.
Down to some of the mechanics, like you can do this little sad swim to help you reach different platforms. You've got a fish hook to get up to places.
Oh, nice.
Like the platform inside is so much more in depth than I thought it would be.
And doesn't it, you're a hermit crab and you have different shells,
yeah,
is that right?
That's so cool, isn't it? Yeah, you're a little hermit crab and you take on different shells and then they have a special ability tied to the game's magic system.
Nice, right.
So you might get one and it's like heals you, but then this one like grows spikes. Whereas this one makes you roll. One of them's a tennis ball. And when you get in it and roll down a hill, you pick up momentum and then you just like Sonic Dash.
Nice.
It's a great game. Yeah, really good. I do really recommend it, but unfortunately the biggest hit was the performance. The performance on Switch in handheld is unacceptable.
Right.
Like unacceptably bad. Almost unplayably bad in handheld, which is really sad to say. Yes, I've spoken to developers. Yes, they're going to patch it, but they can say that. And then who knows what they're going to get to, So right now, if you're a docked player, fine. It got a SwitchUp score of 80%.
Moving into second place then, and in second place we had Planet of Lana.
Yeah, so this is like a side-scrolling adventure game, a bit like if you took the child of, Another World.
Yep.
Flashback, the DNA of those kinds of games. Bit of like a side-scrolling walking simulator with a few puzzles in there every now and then. The combat is avoiding things, it might be like a little automaton. You try and do something clever. You've got this weird little cat creature and you can tell it to do stuff.
Right.
So you'd be like, go over there, cat creature, and it would run over and then it would see that cat and run there and then you'd run underneath.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah.
I think you'd actually really like this. It's quite simplistic. Some people were complaining, it's just pressing right the game. It isn't. It's more than that. And the way it does its storytelling is really nice. Feels a little bit Studio Ghibli, in the way you're not getting these 9 100-year-long cutscenes. You're just seeing stuff play out. Bit War of the Worldsy as well. You like your village people get abducted and stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah.
These big mech things walking along. Looks beautiful, this. Like, really nice art style. I will say, yeah, if you're someone that wants action every 5 minutes, then this won't be for you. But if you like those environmental puzzle platformers, you'll enjoy it.
So from what you've just said, is it like something like Limbo? I'm assuming that sort
exactly
of platformer.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it's as good as Limbo, because Limbo innovates in ways this doesn't.
Yeah.
But still, it's decent. That got a SwitchUp score of 82%.
There we go. Right, moving into first place, obviously, then, for the month, and a score that really does blow the rest out of the water, to be perfectly honest. This is Balatro, which we reviewed fairly recently, and this was one that people kept mentioning in the comment section, didn't they, on various videos of ours. Where's the Balatro review? Best game of the year, etc., etc. And I'll be honest, just looking at the screenshots, I wasn't sold.
No.
At all. And it's a deck builder, which is not my favourite genre, but the fact it was tied to poker, when I found that out, I was like, okay, now I'm interested.
Yeah.
And it's very clever the way it does it.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, isn't it? A roguelike where you cheat at poker, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, create unique hands, get these... I guess the thing is the Joker cards, isn't it?
Yes, so the game has a number of Joker cards that you acquire, and these will have a particular skill, or they grant you a perk, or they buff your cards. And it's about creating a run in which you can lay down certain hands and obviously score ridiculous multipliers to beat the blind and move on each time. But what I like about it is that you assume that you're going to need straights and flushes and royal flushes to win. But actually you can, in the way that you get those jokers, you can make it that a high card is stupidly powerful as long as you get the right joker cards to complement it and to buff it. And that's very clever.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's. We've said on the review, you should go check that out. There'll be a link somewhere. That it's probably one of the most addictive games we've played in ever.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, it's the negative for me is the RNG, and I think that's quite obvious to say about most roguelikes, certainly deck building ones in my opinion at least, in that you can build your run to such a way, but then each boss has a particular power of their own, and you can come up against a boss whose power just completely nerfs yours, and it's game over. And I said in my review that if you're playing an action roguelike, you always have that puncher's chance. You can have a bad run where you're not getting good power-ups or good weapons, but as long as you're skillful at manoeuvring, you've got a puncher's chance.
Yeah.
Here I feel like you haven't sometimes.
And I actually have an answer for that, because I agree, and I completely agree, until the other day I was playing, and I did the same thing, had a run that I thought was unstoppable, got to the boss, was like, I can't beat this boss. But what did I have? I had the seed for that run. So I went back with knowing what was coming. And then I planned for that boss. And I annihilated him. So I think it gives you that seed so that you can negate RNG.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. I mean, a lot of the time, I don't know in this one, but sometimes if you complete a game with a seeded run, it doesn't count.
Right.
So that
would be upsetting.
Yeah, I would assume that's the case. But sometimes it's not even about the build. You know, like I come up against the boss on ante 7 of 8 where you could only play the same hand. It always seems to be this boss that gets me. I only play the same hand for the whole, the entirety of that boss battle. And I had very strong pair. I'd built up pair to be very strong. So I was like, I'm going to get him because I'll get pairs, It wouldn't give me cards to get pairs. Like, come on.
Yes, it does always have that by its nature, isn't it? It's a chance.
So that is frustrating. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, I lost, I played again.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of this game. Very, very good game. Fantastic game, in fact. And it got a SwitchUp high of the month, 92%.
Lovely. Let us know if there are any games that you've played that you think would have made this list. It's always good when we do our interesting game series to have some fodder for it.
Yeah.
So yeah, let us know.
Lovely job. Don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit to pick any of these games up, or anything else of course for that matter, you can get your eShop cards via our website, switchup.gg, and doing so will get you 5% back in cash back from your purchase price. And there's other links down there to various bits and bobs, physical games, Joy-Cons, etc., with some codes to save yourselves a bit of money. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.